With Senator Perdue, a Republican from Georgia and also a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Your response to President Trump's withdrawal from that June 12th summit in Singapore with North Korea leader Kim Jong-un?
Well, first of all, let's keep the perspective that this is a president that's re-engaged. We've had a dialogue going on. Secretary of State Pompeo has been there and talked directly to Kim Jong-un. I was in Beijing when Kim Jong-un was talking to Xi Jinping in China. So today is just more posturing, I think. As you said, don't give up your ticket to Singapore just yet.
So do you agree with his decision, though, to put this on hold?
Well, given the rhetoric of the last few days, certainly I think they need to see a strong message from the president, and he did that today. Look, we want to go to Singapore. We want to have this open dialogue and move on toward the objectives the president's laid out, and that's the total denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, as well as a potential peace treaty and even reunification talks down the road.
What do you make of the rhetoric within the last 24 hours? You have a top diplomat in North Korea calling the vice president a quote-unquote political dummy, for example. I mean, what do you make of these types of back and forths?
Well, it's not constructive at all. And again, we want to move toward more of a South African model where, you know, we saw how that worked out, and it worked out to South Africa's benefit. That's the vision the president has for North Korea. And I think if we can ever get into these top-to-top conversations, we can move the ball forward. And that's what Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has as his top priority right now.
So the president will not be going to, as of now, Singapore on June 12th, but you and other lawmakers will be going to Singapore next week. Talk to me about those planned meetings.
Well, this is a pre-scheduled meeting. They have one every year. It's called Shangri-La, and basically it's where the defense leaders of countries around the world go and talk about their common interests and so forth. We have a delegation going from the Armed Services Committee. I look forward to that. We're going to stop in Japan and Taiwan on the way to meet leaders there. I just got back from an extended trip into China and into South Korea. So this is an ongoing effort to maintain an open re-engagement, not only from the executive branch, from the legislative branch as well.
You mentioned Japan, you mentioned China, two countries that this morning criticizing President Trump's decision to use Section 232 with regards to potentially raising auto import tariffs up to 25%. Your thoughts on that proposal?
Well, we've been engaged in conversation with them. I was there a month ago and had this direct conversation with the leaders of China about the sanctions and so forth. We have their attention now. They know it's an unlevel playing field, and they know that if we engage, we can get to a common solution. I think they want the same thing we do. It's just that they consider themselves a developing country at $12 trillion, and they consider us a developed country at $20 trillion. And our comment was, well, I don't know any $12 trillion developing countries. They're already developed, so we have to have a level playing field.
Do you agree with raising the tariffs on international auto imports?
Well, we had to get their attention on certain things, steel, aluminum, autos. But the encouraging thing is a week after we were there, the delegation that I was a part of, President Xi Jinping unilaterally came out and said he would entertain ideas or conversation around reducing their own tariffs on automobiles and so forth. So I think there's common ground to be had. I know that President Xi and President Trump have a good working relationship. They talk regularly. And I think that's a very constructive feature as we go forward in both North Korea and in trade talks with China.
You're here at the White House today. Just within the next hour or so, President Trump going to sign into law a deregulatory relief bill for community bankers with regard to the 2010 Dodd-Frank Wall Street reform law. Is there any hope, Senator, that there could be more regulatory relief ahead of the midterm elections, or is this as good as it gets, at least for now?
It's pretty good. I'll take what we have right now, but we need more. But look, I am so proud of the United States Senate. This was a bipartisan bill. Remember that. We got 18 Democrats to vote with us. This is 67 votes in the Senate. 2/3 of the Senate voted to change the Dodd-Frank rules for small banks and regional banks that had nothing to do with the 2008 and 2009 financial crisis. So there are other things that we need to get to in terms of regulatory changes, but we'll see how the schedule goes. We're trying to put pressure on right now to get the government funded and to get our nominations. We have 284 nominees in the backlog waiting to be confirmed right now.
And I just want to bring it back to North Korea for a second, because as this continues to go on, I'm wondering, what is the longer-term strategy here for the United States as a whole on the Korean Peninsula? Because if the summit doesn't go as planned and we withdraw from the Iran deal, what's the long-term play here from your perspective and your experience on the committee?
Well, I've lived in Asia, and I've dealt with China, I've dealt with Koreans. a long time. And so I think what the president's doing, let's keep it in perspective, over the last year, he has re-engaged with the rest of the world. And I can tell you, as a part of the Armed Services Committee now and part of Foreign Relations before, meeting with these leaders around the world as we do continually, all they want is America to step in, re-engage, and be a leader as we deal with these crises around the world. Iran, you mentioned, North Korea, and this trade situation with China. So I give the president high marks for re-engaging. It's what the leaders of the world want. I think even President Xi welcomes an open dialogue with President Trump.
Senator Perdue, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for coming on Bloomberg ahead of your meeting with the president. Vonnie, back to you in New York.